Hey everybody, it's your girl Nell and welcome to Simply Nell's Tiny Studio. Book club time. I am getting ready to read some excerpts from Prince Harry's memoir called Bear. The last time we talked, or the last time we were together for book club time, we left off at the part where Prince Harry is walking the royal memorial or the royal burial grounds, and he's waiting on his brother and his father to meet for a meeting, a secret meeting, I guess. And at this point, they're late, and he's wondering if they're going to show at all. So let's get back to Prince Harry and his memoir entitled Spare. For half a second, I considered giving up, going for a walk through the gardens by myself, or heading back to the house where all my cousins were drinking and sharing stories of Grandpa. Then, at last, I saw them. Shoulder to shoulder, striding towards me, they looked grim, almost menacing. More, they looked tightly aligned. My stomach dropped. Normally, they'd be squabbling about one thing or another, but now they appeared to be in lockstep, in league. The thought occurred, hang on, are we meeting for a walk or a duel? I rose from the wooden bench, made a tentative step towards them, gave a weak smile. They didn't smile back. Now my heart really started thrashing in my chest. Deep breaths, I told myself. Apart from fear, I was feeling a kind of hyper-awareness and a hugely intense vulnerability which I'd experienced at other key moments of my life. Walking behind my mother's coffin, going into battle for the first time, giving a speech in the middle of a panic attack. There was that same sense of embarking on a quest and not knowing if I was up to it, while also fully knowing that there was no turning back, that fate was in the saddle. Okay, Mummy, I thought, picking up the pace. Here goes. Wish me luck. We met in the middle of the path. Willie? Pa? Hello? Harold. Painfully tepid. We wheeled, formed a line, set off along the gravel path over the little ivy-covered stone bridge. The way we simply fell into the synchronous alignment, the way we wordlessly assumed the same measured paces and bowed heads, plus the nearness of those graves. How could anyone not be reminded of Mummy's funeral? I told myself not to think about it, to think instead about the pleasing crunch of our footsteps, and the way our words flew away like wisps of smoke on the wind. Being British, being Windsors, we began chatting casually about the weather. We compared notes about Grandpa's funeral. He planned it all himself, down to the tiniest detail. We reminded each other with rueful smiles. Small talk, the smallest. We touched on all secondary subjects, and I kept waiting for us to get to the primary one, wondering why it was taking so long, and also how on earth my father and brother could appear so calm. I looked around. We'd covered a fair bit of terrain, and were now smack in the middle of the royal burial ground, more up to our ankles and bodies than Prince Hamlet. Come to think of it, didn't I myself once ask to be buried here? Hours before I'd gone off to war, my private secretary said I needed to choose the spot where my remains would be interred, should the worst happen, Your Royal Highness. War being an uncertain thing. There were several options. St. George's Chapel, the Royal Vault at Windsor, where Grandpa was being settled at this moment. No, I chosen this one because the gardens were lovely and because it seemed peaceful. Our feet almost on top of Wallace Simpson's face, Paul launched into a micro lecture about this personage over here, that royal cousin over there, all the once eminent dukes and duchesses, lords and ladies, currently residing beneath the lawn. A lifelong student of history, he had loads of information to share, and part of me thought we might be there for hours, and that there might be a test at the end. Mercifully, he stopped, and we carried on along the grass, around the edge of the lake, arriving at a beautiful little patch of daffodils. Now, if you're just tuning in to this um, this second reading that I'm doing of Spare, um, last week we read that Prince Harry set up a secret meeting with his brother and with his dad after um, their after his grandfather's funeral. And the meeting is about the situation that he and Meghan were currently in at the time. They had left um, England or Britain and moved to Canada. And they had not, as of yet, decided to step away from their royal duties. So, right now, Prince Harry wants to have a meeting with his brother and with his father to see if they can come to some happy medium where it doesn't get to the point where they begin or he has to make the decision to leave royal duties, totally. So he wants to have a meeting of the minds with his dad and with his brother to see if they can do something about this press, to see if they can do something with the negativity that's coming down the pipe about him, and more so about Meghan. Okay? So let's get back to the reading. It was there at last that we got down to business. I tried to explain my side of things. I wasn't at my best. For starters, I was still nervous, fighting to keep my emotions in check, while also striving to be succinct and precise. More, I vowed not to let this encounter devolve into another argument, but I quickly discovered it wasn't up to me. Paul and Willie had their parts to play, and they'd come ready to fight. Every time I ventured a new explanation, started a new line of thought, one or both of them would cut me off. Willie in particular didn't want to hear anything. After he shut me down several times, he and I began sniping, saying some of the same things we said for months, years. It got so heated that Paul raised his hands. Enough! He stood between us, looking up at our flushed faces. Please, boys, don't make my final years a misery. His voice sounded raspy, fragile. It sounded, if I'm being honest, old. Come on now. Come on now, Harry. Of course your dad is what, in his 70s? He is old, right? Yes. And also, he just buried his father. So of course he's going to sound old. He's going to sound tired. I thought about Grandpa. All at once something shifted inside of me. I looked at Willie, really looked at him, maybe for the first time since we were boys. I took it all in, his familiar scowl, which had always been his default in dealings with me, his alarming baldness, more advanced than my own, his famous resemblance to Mummy, which was fading with time, with age. In some ways he was my mirror, in some ways he was my opposite. My beloved brother, my arch nemesis. How had that happened? don't know why he had to go there with his brother's baldness. That's funny. But they both have it with that male, that what they call it, the male pattern baldness, something like, I think that's what it's called. But I think that William still looks like Diana. I think he still resembles her a great deal. His alarming baldness more advanced than my own. Oh, that is so shady, Harry. You wrong for that. Okay, back to the book. I felt massively tired. I wanted to go home, and I realized what a complicated concept home had become, or maybe always was. I gestured at the gardens, the city beyond, the nation, and said, Willie, this was supposed to be our home. We were going to live here the rest of our lives. You left, Harold. Yeah, and you know why. I don't. You don't? I honestly don't. I leaned back. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was one thing to disagree about who was at fault or how things might have been different, but for him to claim total ignorance of the reasons I fled the land of my birth, the land for which I'd fought and been ready to die, my mother country, that fraught phrase. To claim no knowledge of why my wife and I took the drastic step of picking up our child and just running like hell, leaving behind everything, house, friends, furniture? Really? I looked up at the trees. You don't know. Harold, I honestly don't. I turned to Pa. He was gazing at me with an expression that said, neither do I. Wow, I thought. Maybe they really don't. Staggering. But maybe it was true. And if they didn't know why I left, maybe they just didn't know me at all. And maybe they never really did. And to be fair, maybe I didn't either. The thought made me feel colder and terribly alone. But it also fired me up. I thought, I have to tell them. How can I tell them? I can't. It would take too long. Besides, they're clearly not in the right frame of mind to listen. Not now anyway. Not today. And so, Pa, Willie, world, here you go. All right, there it is. So, I'm thinking that when his brother and his father are saying they really don't know why Harry and Meghan left the UK. And Harry is like, well, I told you. What do you mean you don't know? I'm guessing that they cannot understand. What reason could there be so large that you would consider leaving the royal family in the manner in which he did? They're thinking, and this is my assumption, what reason could you possibly have for leaving all of this? And I'm guessing if you've grown up in a situation where you have extreme privilege, because this is not just privilege we are talking about, we're talking about privilege on steroids when you think of the royal family. So Charles never left, and he went through a lot, right? I mean, when all that stuff went down with Diana. Oh, how about the fact that, his first love really was Camilla, and he had to let her go, sort of, and married Diana, someone that he did not love. I don't know if it entered his mind to give up everything and be with Camilla, turn his back on his family and say, "Come on, Camilla, let's go. We're gonna make a go of this, regardless if my parents or if my mother, the queen, gives her blessing. We're gonna do this." And I'm guessing it all comes down to duty. If you being a part of the monarchy means you have a duty to the crown. So there can be no good reason to leave duty behind. And I'm guessing when William and Prince Charles at the time said, "No, I don't know why," that's what they meant. I mean, you would actually leave the royal family behind, leave your duty behind because of negative press. And as you know, I said in another video, according to Prince Harry, you know, when he had this conversation before with his father and with his brother, you know, and members of the royal family, they were like, we all get bad press. We all get bad press. It's just your turn. It's just Meghan's turn. So from what we just read, this book is supposed to tell his brother and his dad exactly why he left the royal family or why he left his duties in the royal family. So now we're really getting into part 1, Out of the Night That Covers Me. Okay, here we go. Let me know your thoughts about that. Do you think that Prince William and King Charles, do you think that they were just saying that to Harry? You know, we don't know why you left. We have no idea. We don't know the reason why you left. Help us understand that. Or do you think they knew why? And they was just, acting funky about it? Or do you, because I think that I think that they do, I think that they heard his reasons for leaving. But I also feel like they're like, how could you leave all of this? No, we don't know the reason. We do not know the reason why you decided to drop everything and leave. Because like I said, it's extreme privilege on steroids. You leave all of this because of some bad press? That can't be the reason. So no, we don't know why you left. Tell us. All right, so let's get into part 1, chapter 1. There were always stories. People would whisper now and then about folks who hadn't fared well at Balmoral. The long ago queen, for instance. Mad with grief, she locked herself inside Balmoral Castle and vowed never to come out. And the very proper former prime minister, he'd call the place surreal and utterly freaky. Still, I don't think I heard those stories until much later. Or maybe I heard them and they didn't register. To me, Balmoral was always simply paradise, a cross between Disney World and some sacred druid grove. I was always too busy fishing, shooting, running up and down the hill to notice anything off about the feng shui of the old castle. What I'm trying to say is, I was happy there. In fact, it's possible that I was happier than that one golden summer day. Let me read that again. Sorry about that. In fact, it's possible that I was never happier than that one golden summer day at Balmoral, August the 30th, 1997. We've been at the castle for 1 week. The plan was to stay for another. Same as the previous year, same as the year before. That. Balmoral was its own micro season, a 2 week interlude in the Scottish Highlands to mark the turn from high summer to early autumn. I'm trying to think, wasn't Queen Elizabeth at Balmoral when she died? She was there, I think she was. She was there last August. And I think that's where she passed. Okay. Granny was there too. Naturally, she spent most of every summer at Balmoral, and Grandpa, and Willie, and Pa. The whole family, with the exception of Mummy, because Mummy was no longer part of the family. She'd either bolted or been thrown out, depending on whom you'd ask, though I never asked anyone. Either way, she was having her own holiday elsewhere. Greece, someone said. No, Sardinia, someone said. No, no, someone chimed in. Your mother's in Paris. Maybe it was Mummy herself who said that. When she phoned earlier that day for a chat. Alas, the memory lies, with a million others, on the other side of a high mental wall. Such a horrid, tantalizing feeling to know they're over there, just on the other side, mere inches away, but the wall is always too high, too thick, too unscalable. Not unlike the turrets of Balmoral. Wherever Mummy was, I understood that she was with her new friend. That was the word everyone used. Not boyfriend, not lover, friend. Nice enough bloke, I thought. Willie and I had just met him. Actually, we'd been with Mummy weeks earlier when she first met him at Saint-Tropez. We were having a grand time, just the three of us, staying at some old gent's villa. There was much laughter, horseplay, the norm whenever Mummy and Willie and I were together, though even more so on that holiday. Everything about that trip to Saint-Tropez was heaven. The weather was sublime. The food was tasty. Mummy was smiling. Best of all, there were jet skis. Who were they? Or whose were they? Don't know. But I vividly remember Willie and me riding them out to the deepest part of the channel, circling while waiting for the big ferries to come. We used their massive wakes as ramps to get airborne. I'm not sure how we weren't killed. Was it after we got back from the jet ski misadventure that Mummy's friend first appeared? No, more likely it was just before. Hello there, you must be Harry. Raven hair, leathery tan, bone white smile. How are you today? My name is blah blah. He chatted us up, chatted Mommy up. Specifically, Mummy. Pointedly, Mummy. His eyes plumping into red hearts. He was cheeky, no doubt, but again, nice enough. He gave Mummy a present. Diamond bracelet. She seemed to like it. She wore it a lot. Then he faded from my consciousness. As long as Mummy's happy, I told Willie. Let me read that again. As long as Mummy's happy, I told Willie, who said he felt the same. All right, so we are into officially part 1 and chapter 1 of Spare by Prince Harry. So, August the 30th, 1997, we are all We all know what that date is and the significance of it. But as I've been reading Spare on my own at night, this date right here is it's more than significant. It becomes life changing and life altering for Harry. And his life is about to really, truly change on this particular day. So I hope that you continue following me here in the tiny studio as I read excerpts of Prince Harry Spear with you. I hope that you enjoyed it. And, feel free to hop back in here to Tiny Studio next week while we continue reading there. And not only that, I just received another book from a book publishing house. And that book is Ginger Duggar's Becoming Free Indeed. And I've been reading it, and this is a really good book. And I'm thinking that I might alternately read some of Ginger's book and read some of Prince Harry's book here in the tiny studio. Just let me know what you would like. Would you like for me to read a little bit from Ginger's book next time? And then we'll get back to reading some more Prince Harry Spare. Let me know. Let me know what you think and what you would like. So I will see you next time here in the tiny studio for some more Spare. Drop down in the comment section and tell me what you think and what your thoughts are about. Oh, and there's something else. He also mentions that his memory is going to become, or right now his memory is kind of non-reliable. And this continues throughout the book because there are certain dates and certain events that happens and that occurs in Prince Harry's life where he's not really sure of the dates. And this is something that happens to people who undergo really significant trauma in their lives. The dates and the events that happen, their memories begin to play tricks on them. And perhaps it has happened to you as well. If there's some type of trauma you've gone through where you can't remember certain events that happened, before that event, because I have, I have run into people who have been, really gone through terrible, terrible abuse. And there are certain parts of their lives that they have just completely forgotten, that have been blacked out, completely wiped from their memory. Or if they remember it, you can't really trust their memory because of the trauma. So he drops that here, that point here, and then it continues to pop up from what I'm reading in the book that his memory is kind of faulty. So that can be good. Well, I'm just going to say that can be problematic when it comes to how certain events happen, because you want to be as accurate, as close to accuracy as possible when you are dealing with dates and certain events. And those dates and events involve real life people or events. You want to make sure that, the timing is exact. And in this book, Prince Harry has some issues with that, and we'll get into it some more. So thank you so much for hanging out with me here in the tiny studio, and let me know what you think about what we've just read and what we have just discussed about Spare. I'll see you next time here in the tiny studio. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye bye now.